Hello everyone, it's Naomi. In today's episode, I'll be sharing with you the emotions and thoughts that have been running through my mind as I prepare for my trip to Bangkok. It's been a mix of excitement and anxiety, with moments of doubt creeping in as I try to imagine what awaits me there. This trip isn't just about exploring a new city, but also about confronting some feelings I've been avoiding for a long time. I've booked the flight and a hotel, but beyond that, I have no plans. It's unusual for me to travel without a detailed plan, but something about this trip feels different. There's a part of me that feels certain I'll meet Pim again, though we've made no plans. At the same time, there's a fear. What if I don't see her? But I know this journey is necessary, not just for the possibility of seeing Pim, but for discovering something deeper within myself. So, join me as I prepare for this journey, and together we'll dive into the emotions, the uncertainties, and the hopes that come with stepping into the unknown. Let's begin. Tokyo and Bangkok. Two cities that couldn't be more different, yet both pull at my heart in ways I can't fully explain. As I moved through my daily routine in Tokyo, a city that had always been my refuge, I found myself more aware of the contrast between these two places. Tokyo is precise, like a finely tuned machine. Everything moves with purpose. Trains arriving on time, people walking with determined strides, the skyline stretching endlessly, as if to remind you of the scale and power of the city. I've lived in Tokyo for years, and there's a certain comfort in its predictability. And yet, over the past few weeks, that comfort has started to feel more like a cage. Bangkok, on the other hand, feels like chaos. Unpredictable, vibrant, alive. The heat, the noise, the smell of street food blending with the scent of incense from nearby temples. It was overwhelming, intoxicating. I remember standing at a busy intersection, watching the motorbikes zip by, the street vendors shouting, the city alive in a way that Tokyo never is. Bangkok felt raw, untamed. It stirred something in me, something I hadn't expected, an excitement, a thrill, but also a fear. I think that's why I'm feeling so restless now, why my usual routine in Tokyo feels more like an act I'm performing rather than a life I'm living. The contrast between these two cities, the order of Tokyo and the chaos of Bangkok, mirrors the conflict I feel inside. In Tokyo, I am composed, controlled. I have a job that I'm good at, a career I've built for myself. I wake up every morning knowing exactly what's expected of me, what the day will bring. It's safe, predictable. But then there's Bangkok, this city that promises uncertainty, that seems to hold the possibility of something new, something I've never experienced before. I can feel my heart race just thinking about it. There's excitement, yes, but also fear. Fear of what I might find, fear of what I might discover about myself. I wonder if that's why I've been throwing myself into work these past few weeks, trying to drown out that fear with meetings and presentations and endless emails. But it hasn't worked. The closer I get to the departure date, the more I feel that pull toward Bangkok. The more I feel the need to escape this carefully curated life I've built in Tokyo. And yet, part of me is terrified of what might happen if I do. What if I go to Bangkok and realize that this life I've been living in Tokyo is no longer enough? What if I come back and everything feels different? But perhaps that's what I need. Perhaps the discomfort I'm feeling now is a sign that something in my life has to change, that I have to let go of the certainty I've clung to for so long. I just don't know if I'm ready. I'll spend these next few days doing what I always do, working, keeping myself busy, trying to avoid thinking too much. But in the quiet moments, when the routine falls away, I can feel it, that pull towards something new, something terrifying, something exciting. Bangkok is waiting for me, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for what it will reveal. It was late when we finally left the office, the city already shimmering in the glow of streetlights and neon signs. Dinner? One of my colleagues suggested, and before I could think of an excuse to avoid it, I found myself nodding. I wasn't hungry, but it was easier to say yes than to explain why I wanted to go home and be alone. So we ended up at a small restaurant not far from the office, the usual place we went when we needed to unwind after a long day. It was busy, filled with the hum of conversation, the clatter of plates, the faint scent of grilled fish and soy sauce hanging in the air. My colleagues chatted easily, their laughter cutting through the noise. I joined in, smiling, nodding at the right moments, offering a comment here and there, but inside, I felt disconnected, as if I was watching the scene from a distance, not truly part of it. "Naomi, you've been quiet," one of my colleagues noted, a teasing smile on his face. "Just tired," I replied quickly, taking a sip of my drink to avoid further questions. But the truth was, it wasn't just tiredness. It was something deeper, something I couldn't quite name, a sense of unease, of restlessness, that had been growing inside me ever since I booked the flight to Bangkok. As the night wore on, I found myself withdrawing even further into my thoughts, watching my colleagues laugh and drink, their faces slightly flushed under the dim restaurant lights. They seemed so at ease, so comfortable in their roles, working hard, playing hard, never questioning the routine. And then there was me, smiling on the outside but inside, feeling more like an imposter with every passing minute. Eventually, I excused myself, claiming an early meeting the next day, and slipped out of the restaurant. The cool night air hit me as soon as I stepped outside, and for a moment I stood there, breathing it in, feeling the tension in my shoulders ease slightly. But it didn't last long. I started walking, the familiar route home feeling heavier than usual. I was tired, but it was the kind of tiredness that sleep wouldn't fix. When I finally reached my apartment, I slipped off my shoes, letting them drop carelessly by the door, and headed straight to the bathroom. The quiet of my apartment felt like a relief, but also a reminder of the emptiness I'd been carrying with me. I filled the tub with hot water, the steam rising slowly and fogging the mirror. As I waited, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face flushed from the heat, strands of hair falling loosely around my cheeks. For a moment, I studied my reflection. I was still in my office clothes, but there was something tired in my posture, something in the way my shoulders slumped and my eyes seemed dull. And then, without meaning to, I thought of Pim. I imagined her standing here, in front of this mirror, her skin glowing, her body graceful and strong, the curve of her waist, the softness of her lips. My breath hitched as the thought of her lingered, and I quickly turned away from the mirror, stripping off my clothes and stepping into the hot water. The water enveloped me, but it amplified the tension that had been building all day. As I leaned back, closing my eyes, I couldn't shake the image of Pim, her voice, her laugh, the way she had looked at me with such ease. Why was I thinking about her so much? I had met plenty of people in my life, dated casually here and there, but there was something different about Pim. It wasn't just her beauty, though that certainly played a part. It was the way she carried herself, the way she made me feel seen, understood, in a way I hadn't felt in so long. I opened my eyes, staring up at the ceiling, steam rising around me. I should have been relaxing, letting the warmth of the water ease my tired muscles, but instead, my mind was racing, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was pretending to be someone who had it all together, when in reality, I was just as lost as I had ever been. When I was with Pim, I had felt that spark of something authentic, something that reminded me of who I was, or maybe who I wanted to be. But now, lying here, I couldn't help but feel like I had been pretending all along. Even with her, I had tried so hard to seem like I had everything figured out, like I wasn't just as confused, just as unsure as everyone else. The truth was, I didn't know what I was doing anymore. I closed my eyes again, letting out a long sigh. The bath wasn't helping. I stepped out of the tub, drying off quickly, and slipped into my pajamas. As I made my way to bed, I felt the weight of the day settling back onto my shoulders. I had been running on autopilot for so long, pretending to be someone I wasn't, and now, for the first time in a long time, I was being forced to confront that. I turned over in bed, pulling the blanket up to my chin, trying to push the thoughts away. But those thoughts wouldn't go. I had spent so long pretending, but now it felt like the mask I had worn for so many years was starting to slip, and I wasn't sure who I would be without it. And then, of course, there was Pim, always Pim. Would she see the real me? The days leading up to my trip to Bangkok passed in a blur of routine. I focused on work, on meetings, presentations, and deadlines. Anything to keep my mind occupied and avoid thinking about what was waiting for me. I was good at it, at keeping things moving, at making sure everything appeared fine on the surface. Every morning, I woke up to the same alarm, stretched, did my yoga routine, and ate my usual quick breakfast. I left for the office, where I slid back into my role, efficient and composed, responding to emails and leading discussions with clients, all while keeping the growing tension inside at bay. But as the day of my departure approached, I couldn't ignore the subtle shifts happening within me. It wasn't just about the trip, it was something bigger, something I couldn't quite put into words yet. Work felt like a mask I was wearing, a performance I put on every day. I would sit in meetings, nodding at the right moments, offering insights when needed, but my thoughts were never fully present. Instead, my mind kept drifting back to Bangkok, to Pim, to the weight of everything I hadn't been facing for so long. I started to wonder if I had been pretending all this time, pretending to be fine, pretending to be in control, when in reality, I was teetering on the edge of something unknown. The night before my flight, I stayed late at the office, wrapping up loose ends and making sure everything was in order. It felt like I was preparing for something much bigger than just a trip, a sense that I was on the verge of a significant change, though I couldn't fully grasp what that change would be. The office was quiet. Most of my colleagues had left hours ago, but I stayed, pretending I had more work to do, when in reality, I was avoiding the moment when I would have to leave and face the silence of my apartment. When I finally stepped inside my apartment, the stillness hit me like a wall. It was just me, alone with my thoughts, and I couldn't escape them any longer. I filled the bathtub again, hoping the hot water would ease the tension that had built up in my body over the past few days. As the steam rose and the room filled with warmth, I stripped off my clothes and caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror again. There was that same tiredness in my eyes, the same tension in my shoulders, but there was something else now, an anticipation, a nervous energy that came from the knowledge that everything was about to change. I slid into the water, letting it envelop me, but even as my body relaxed, my mind continued to race. Bangkok was waiting for me, and with it, a version of myself that I hadn't yet met. I hadn't planned anything for this trip, at least not in the way I normally would. No carefully curated itinerary, no restaurant reservations, no list of must-see sites. All I had was a flight and a room at a budget hotel I barely remembered booking in a haze of late-night decision-making. It wasn't like me. Normally, I'd have everything planned down to the hour, knowing exactly what I'd be doing each day, where I'd be eating, who I'd be meeting. But this time, I couldn't bring myself to plan. Maybe it was because I didn't know what I was looking for in Bangkok, only that I needed to be there. As I pulled my suitcase out of the closet, I realized I hadn't even decided what to pack. I stared at the open suitcase on my bed, its empty space feeling strangely symbolic of how unprepared I felt. My mind wandered to Pim. I hadn't told her I was coming, hadn't made any plans to meet her. And yet part of me felt certain that I would see her. There was this unspoken confidence inside me that, somehow, our paths would cross again, that it was inevitable. But then there was the fear, the nagging doubt that maybe I wouldn't see her, that maybe I had misread everything. What if she was busy? What if she wasn't in Bangkok at all? The thought made my chest tighten, a sharp pang of anxiety, mixing with the excitement that had been building over the past few days. I threw a few dresses into the suitcase, followed by my yoga clothes and a couple of casual outfits. I wasn't sure what I would need. Bangkok was unpredictable, just like this trip, just like the feelings I was wrestling with. As I packed, my thoughts kept returning to the night I had spent with Pim, the conversations, the easy laughter, the way she had looked at me with those warm, knowing eyes. Would she be the same when I saw her again? Or had I built her up in my mind into something more than she really was? This trip, this moment in my life, felt like a crossroads, a place where I would either find the answers I'd been looking for, or be left more lost than ever before. I looked around my room, the familiar surroundings suddenly feeling foreign, as if I was already halfway out the door. Bangkok was waiting for me, but what exactly was I waiting for? Would Pim even recognize me, this version of me, who had been hiding behind work and routine for so long? And if I did see her, what then? I sat down on the edge of my bed, my suitcase packed, my mind racing with questions I didn't have the answers to. Part of me was excited. Excited for the adventure, for the unknown, for the possibility of reconnecting with someone who had left such a deep impression on me. But the other part of me was scared. Scared that maybe I was chasing after something that didn't exist. Scared that I was running from something I wasn't ready to face. I stood up, took one last look around my room, and exhaled slowly. Tomorrow, I would be on a plane to Bangkok. And whatever happened, I would have to face it,